Tell her to get back to work.
Back to work?
Ask them.
And I forgot to take.
I could just, hey, Russell, why don't you make a motion, they pay us in full card cash?
I don't want people knowing my account.
Yeah, same thing.
Years and years ago, I signed a sheet that I put a hardship case and I had a check and I still get a check.
Yeah, they send mine, I don't know if I get it or I don't. And at one time Dawn didn't tell me that it was deposited, I didn't know, so I called him, I says, you gonna send that check or not? Well, we sent that 3 weeks ago. Well, Dawn didn't tell me that they got it, and it was electronically. Yeah, it's the wrong one. Sure. It didn't work. Oh boy. That helps.
Teaching, and after about 2 or 3 weeks, it wore through and it's sticking through.
Yeah.
When he took it out, he puts his hand on my head like this, and puts it forward.
I hope they never get to that. Where you got your telephone and you swipe a little card and that's your paycheck.
Yeah.
And then you give them your telephone or that little card and that's how you pay for stuff. They want to get rid of cash. I still like them dollar bills, even if they are dirty.
Yeah.
Filthy money. I still like the feel of it. Then you know how much you got. Do you?
Was that thing the night of Sunday
Well,
night?
you know,
Sunday morning.
I mean, Sunday night.
not everything's direct deposit. You know, like I get checks from the farm, well, that's all I've got to do to pay the farm bills is what it's got to do. Oh, if I get a little check like this, figure I take it out in cash.
Yeah, fun money. Auction money.
Oh, my wife and I can go out and eat, you know, do different things.
Yeah.
Well, before my surgery,
You still got some young stock then, Russell?
prepared for the big
I didn't buy any cabs.
That's what I heard. I couldn't believe it.
I'm wearing
Because they can keel over dead and
Well, by the time you get ready for market, in 2 years, if the market goes down.
right off. Yeah, pretty good right off. Yeah. That's like that one Amish guy. He bought some. I don't know if they were 200 pounds, maybe. Paid $800 for them. I says, "You're gonna lose your butt." Oh no, I'm gonna feed them throughout the summer, and I'm gonna sell them for $1,200.
Oh, that one. Yeah, lovely.
I says, "More power to you if you can, but boy, I don't know."
I talked to the Detmer boys,
Yeah.
and they said they bought their feeders, and I don't know
Well,
how big they
when
were,
you're
800 or
so
900
bad
pounds. They
that
paid
he's-
$2.05 a pound
If you
for
work
it.
them up in the
And they said every
He's
morning we
the-
walk out to field and we make sure
Oh,
everyone comes to
yeah.
the bunk and their ears are standing up straight.
Yeah,
because
for
they
that
can't
kind of money.
So they paid $1,400 a piece for them. And they got finishing them up.
Yeah.
But they're colored cattle, they're not Holsteins.
Right. But even so, they're still pricey.
Sure, that's what he's looking for, so he could sue.
I got a lot of pasture, about 20 acres, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna pay that kind of money for cows. The ones I checked on throughout the summer net, $2,500 to $3,000 for a beef cow. And that ain't nothing registered or purebred or nothing, that's just, I ain't gonna do it. I'll sell the hay to the horse people, and a couple guys get some for here and there.
He's not picking any crap from the boys. No?
Like, I'm not sure that Judge Slade likes me that much, but maybe
Well, let's get this.
Too bad. Somebody
Be an attorney and what Mark knows.
Terry. Terry.
29, then they got another meeting.
You don't think I could have handled that?
Moving right along.
I resign. I'm done. I resign.
Me too. My wife bought me a new watch.
Moving right along.
I resign.
Okay. I'll give him 2 minutes.
I looked at it. It was pretty simple. I didn't think it'd be a problem.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order.
Good idea.
Now we'll take roll call.
I'll spread these in charge.
Mrs. Krantz?
Here.
Mr. Heisey?
Here.
Mr. Tim?
Here.
Mr. Mastercola? Mr. Eckstein?
Here.
Here.
Rockenbaum.
Here.
Mark Kirschner.
Here.
We will stand for silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
I will so move.
Motion, Bob Whale,
I'll second that.
second Bernadette Krenz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We need an approval of the minutes of the August 18th, 2015 monthly meeting and the CDBG-ED public hearing.
Move to approve.
A motion and a second. Motion by Whitey, second by Eckstein to approve the minutes. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public comments? So we move on to old business. We have none. New business. We have some reports and presentations. The first should be the UW Extension Annual Report.
Barb, would you just flip on the microphone? I didn't do that.
Would you advance to the next slide? Sure. Other way. The right side instead of the left. I'm just like the right arrow. Yep, and then one more. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Hello, my name is Megan Wecker, and I'm here today representing UW Extension, as you can see. Today we're going to talk about two major points. So each of our slides will have a title. That title is one of our strategic points. What we'll be talking about in that slide is then a program that we currently have that meets that strategic plan. So we plan to obviously expand those and work on other programs as well. But our goal today is to explain our strategic plan while giving you a flavor of what Extension does, all at the same time in a succinct 15-ish minute presentation. So I will begin by introducing Patrick Meering. Oh, some of you, one more thing, some of you, this will be knowledge you already have. You already know these programs, and then some of you we haven't had the opportunity to connect with yet. So whether new knowledge or old knowledge, please enjoy. And so I'd like to introduce Patrick Meering, who is the Waushara County CRD educator.
So if you want to move to the next one. So one of our strategic directions is trust and communication. And UW Extension continues to be utilized by other county departments for training and development and for information. And some examples in the past year have been, we've done some customer service training with the department heads. We did personal finance program for employees. 8 Pillars of Trust was presented here to the county board and then also to department heads and others in the county. And we've had one-on-one conversations with other departments on subjects like comprehensive planning. And if you move to the next one, one example of this is we've provided a lot of demographic and economic statistics to different departments for use for grants and for program reports and for making plans. One of those uses that we had was, and this slide will be covered further in our presentation at the end of the report. So we have a report on the Health and Economic Summit, and this is one of the slides we presented as part of that Health and Economic Summit. It shows the worker flows for those who work in Waushara County and those who work outside of Waushara County. So So then I'll turn it over to Barb Barker, who's our 4-H and Youth Development Agent, for next one.
Good evening. Our next strategic direction is public perceptions and branding. And we have a lot of goals and interest in having a very positive public perception as well as a public brand. And 4-H was chosen for this. Many of you were involved in 4-H or have had connections to 4-H. And one of the things that we focus on historically was the 4-H Community Club program. In Waushara County, we have about 70 4-H club officers. We figure there's about 5 officers for every 4-H club. And they guide, just like county board meets, your committees meet. They hold about 165 4-H club meetings in Waushara County. And the youth are the ones who are leading those meetings. They're the president, they're the secretary, the treasurer. They are responsible for that. The pictures that you see here are from the Oasis Prairie Ramblers, and this is the past year's officers that provided leadership for that club over the past year. We have about 340 members, and those members together make the decisions about what the club does. What kind of educational opportunities do they wish to have? What kind of community service projects do they wish to have? We haven't added up the community service projects this year, but typically we have one community service project for every member. So we have about 340 community service projects that are done throughout our county. They also do a lot of team building. It's an opportunity for kids across ages, across grades to get to know one another and come together to support and encourage one another in their projects. And they also do the fundraising efforts for each of their clubs. There's also a number of opportunities on the county level. We have 2 countywide project associations, a rabbit and poultry one and a horse one, that the officers are also youth officers under the guidance of adult mentors. We have summer camp counselors, we have Clover by Day camp counselors. They plan and organize from the theme all the way up to determining what the activities are that the group will do. Have any of you ever heard of the Explore Wisconsin program that 4-H does? It's a program for 6th and 8th graders, and the 6th and the 8th graders actually decide where in Wisconsin they want to explore and what it is they want to see and do. A couple years ago, I went with a group to Door County and to Kewaunee and to Manitowoc County, and we went to see the Peninsula Players. We went to the home of the Ice Cream Sundae, and of course we had to have Ice Cream Sundae. And then we also toured the nuclear plant in 2 Rivers, which I don't know if that's still in operation or not, no? Okay, but it was just a unique opportunity for the kids to go and do that, and they made a decision about it. Megan has worked with the 4-H Ambassadors, which is another leadership group, and I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about the very successful pool party that they did this past year.
So pool party may seem kind of trivial, but what's not trivial is the youth involvement in this pool party. So I started this position in February of this year, and so I had these youth come in. There were 6 youth, and they wanted to do something big. They wanted to do something they thought was huge to promote 4-H, and so they opted to have a pool party. And so they rented out the Berlin Aquatic Center, and we had about a quarter of all of the participants in 4-H in our whole county show up. So it was highly successful, but was even more successful than the participant turnout and the opportunity to have fun at the pool was the way the youth felt about what they had done. So they were very, very proud. One girl said she couldn't imagine something as big as renting out the Berlin pool. This was just something she couldn't even fathom. And so for her to go from having an idea to seeing that idea in action was very powerful, and will continue to be as we continue with ambassadors. So next up is Ken Williams, and he is our agriculture agent here in Waushara County.
Okay, one of the areas I work with is farm business management, so that would be under fiscal responsibility. One of the things I worked with over the last 4 years, I'd authored a grant, a Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative grant in the amount of $12,700, which was funded through the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture. This provided for putting in some grass plots. We wanted to get some yield estimates as well as see how the cattle would accept different types of grasses. This was started in 2012. The weather in 2012 was not conducive to grass or anything growing, so our plots didn't turn out. We did replant some of them again in 2013. Again, they didn't take off, so we didn't get any results from that. But over the 4 years we did the program, we did get a mailing list of about 220 people. These are the results from 57 out of 220 people that we got as far as survey responses. The land and managed intensive grazing went from 729 up to 1,061. The acres per farmer in managed grazing went from 48 up to 70. The size of the paddocks or the pastures basically that you're using for the cattle went from 4.6 down to 1.1. So they're moving their cattle more often. That went from 19.7 days up to 7.2. And the respondents indicated they saved $13,000 in reduced fertilizer use and also $6,400 in reduced machinery and fuel. Other things they'd put in on as far as notes on their surveys, 5 of them had installed headlocks. One of the things with beef cattle, they're not like dairy cattle. They don't come into the barn twice a day. And so if they need veterinary use, one of the things a vet will ask you if you call for a vet to come out to your farm is how do you handle the cattle or what facilities do you have? So this is one of the things that beef producers need to do. So 5 of them put in headlocks, 8 of them put in head gates, 7 of them put in a cattle tub. Others indicated they reworked their facilities, added more gates, more permanent fence, outwarded in their pasture rather than out by the barn. This is one of the things we find with beef cattle. When I moved up here, one of the things my dad asked me, he says, are your cows able to get in the barn at night? And I go, no, Dad, they're beef cows. They stay outside all the time. And then others say they put in better fencing. Okay, Deb. Another thing I was involved with just this last year, the 2014 farm program, the University Extension on the state level worked together with FSA. There was money in the farm program from the federal level to provide for education. However, FSA cannot do any education. They cannot give guidance to farmers as far as what program is better than another. So I was one of 10 state trainers that worked throughout the state to train farmers in these programs. I conducted 8 training sessions. Juneau, Wapaka, Marquette, Green Lake, Adams, Fond du Lac, and Waushara, 2 of them in Waushara. We had, go ahead and flip it again, I think. Yeah, go ahead and flip it again, Deb. Yeah, we had 306 people attend these meetings, 183 completed surveys on them. Questions I had on the survey was as far as their understanding of how the plans work, whether they learned how to update their yields, how to update their acres, and then also any resource materials, whether they learned anything about different materials where they were able to go to access information about these programs. And the averages went from, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1.95 before the meetings to 3.85 after the meetings. So, and next, I believe, is Patrick? Okay.
So you can move on to the next one. And one of the things that we do with UW Extension is to expand what we have to offer, to improve upon what we have to offer. We oftentimes will collaborate with with partnerships within the community and with other departments. And so some examples of that would be the food pantry. We work with them to teach people how to provide nutritious meals on a budget. And we've worked with the Waushara Chamber of Commerce and the Wisconsin Department of Tourism, provided a customer service training. Department of Tourism provided the information on general customer service, and then as extension, we provided it on how to do it with certain people of different generations and personality temperaments. And then the other thing we do, which is part of this strategic direction, is that we empower individuals, organizations, businesses, and communities. And some examples of that is that we do training for the Master Gardener program, and the Master Gardeners maintain a number of plantings throughout the county, and through our training, they're able to do that. We also provide technical assistance to some organizations, like I work with the Waushara Tourism Resource Commission and how they operate and how they're able to invite tourists to Waushara County. And a collaborative effort that you see here is a collaboration between the Land Conservation and Zoning Department, UW-Stevens Point, Golden Sands RC&D, and the DNR. And through this program, we've empowered over 300 people to develop lake management plans on 25 lakes in the last 2 years. And by the end of 2016, we'll have lake management plans on 32 lakes in the county. And this will be a way for those lakes to develop and improve upon their lakes that they have. And with that, I'll turn it over to Family Living Agent, Mary Ann Schilling.
Okay, thank you. One of the other strategic areas is having active, healthy, and safe people and communities. And my example here is that through the Family Living Program, I taught the Cancer Clear and Simple series to 159 people in the past year. These people learned about cancer growth and risk factors, the prevention of cancer and other chronic diseases, and also the importance of early detection and cancer screenings. People that attended these classes included adults at the Wautoma Library, members of HCE, and I also went to the Wautoma High School and taught at 3 of the health classes for age-appropriate cancer detection and prevention. In addition to Cancer Clear and Simple, I also was at the Rural Safety Day where 80 youth attended that, and they learned about safety in their homes, especially when they are home alone. And I also want to finish up by mentioning that HCE is sponsoring 2 educational programs each year, and I want to invite you to one on Monday, September 28th. It's from 2 to 4. I will put a flyer in your mailbox. This will be at the Wautoma Library, and it will be on the Cancer Clear and Simple. Waushara County has a higher incidence of cancer than the state average, so that's why we believe it's important to address that so we can reduce the cancer incidence. Under that Family Living Program umbrella is the Wisconsin Nutrition Education Program, so I'm going to ask Zena to come up next and talk about that.
I can either get up on my tippy toes or I can bring it down a little bit. All right. Hi, my name is Zena Soltis, and I'm the nutrition educator with the Wisconsin Nutrition Education Program. And since I began May 1st, I've been teaching across various sites in the county, such as the Wautoma Food Pantry, Waushara Industries, Tri-County Summer School, as well as the Summer Library Reading Programs in the county libraries. And that's in conjunction with 4-H youth development programs. And I've taught various topics such as food budgeting and food safety, as well as food group education consistent with the My Plate model that you can see pictured above. Starting next month, I will be teaching at 5 different elementary schools in the county, and I have over 150 teaching events scheduled for the upcoming year. And those are expected to reach over 500 unduplicated Waushara County residents. My position is actually, as Marianne mentioned, a portion of the Family Living Program and is funded exclusively through the USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is called Food Share here in Wisconsin. And the Wisconsin Nutrition Education Program seeks to educate limited income individuals and families so that they're able to make informed choices to better their health and stretch their food dollars.
And just to wrap up, if you want to go one more click, it'll take us back to the center. We don't have a slide for this, but one of the things in regards to the fiscal information that we wanted to share with you is that there is a number of outside funding sources that we do tap into to support our office. The grand total of funding in dollars as well as in kind through volunteer and intern hours is almost $400,000. It's $392,649.57. The total volunteer hours is about 8,700 hours. That's through 4-H, through Master Gardeners. We currently have a dietetics intern from UW Green Bay, sort of technically. She's doing it through some college in Pennsylvania. So, but she went to school in Green Bay, so that's why I'm saying Green Bay. We've also had the HC do some educational programming on our behalf, as well as the Land Use Committee. For those of you who don't know, 60% of our salaries and our benefits are paid for by the university through money from the state as well as from USDA. So as we take a look at that, that's about $224,000. The WNAP grant is about $50,000, and the rest is in grants that we have applied for. So that's where some of our funding comes from to help support our office in addition to the money that comes from the county. Any questions?
And then I have a couple of brochures because we just gave you a sample of what we provide in the office, and the 2 people on the top of there are Rosie and Natalie, who are also very instrumental in our extension program that we have here for Waushara County.
You guys.
I might add too, when we did that, when Heartstoppers did the Jailbreak Marathon, we called a couple of the 4-H groups to do water tables, and they were very gracious and came out and helped us out, and certainly appreciated it.
I said there's probably one community service project for each of the 340 members, so it's pretty awesome, the amount of contribution that Brightspace is doing during that midnight summer that we're calling it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have the EMS annual report. Ryan Donaldson.
It's going to be a tough act to follow. Hopefully mine will shine because it'll be short, sweet, and to the point. As she said, my name is Brian Donaldson. I'm a critical care paramedic. I'm the director of EMS here at Waushara County. And wanted to show you a little bit as far as, ended up with a blank there. Okay. A little bit as far as the call volume in 2014. You can see we responded to about 2,700 plus calls for assistance. So if those were all unique users, we'd know that about 10% of the population uses our services each year. That's an incorrect assumption because they're not all unique users. So less than 10% of the population uses our services each year. You can see that 72% of those calls were 911 calls, and 26% were for interfacility transfers. Now, one of the things we're going to be doing as we move forward is marketing the interfacility transfer work more heavily, because financially that's the bread and butter of any ambulance service. The 911 side of the business is kind of a necessary evil. The interfacility transfers go more to the bottom line. And 2% event standbys, so people who've requested us to stand by at special events. You can see the users by age, the pediatric population, and then the young adults pretty equally split. And if you didn't believe that the wheels fall off at 50, here's graphic proof that that may be true. You can see most of our users are age 51 or above. Here, the split between male and female, heavily weighted toward males. Males tend to take more risk-taking behaviors, things like that. So we see more of our trauma patients tend to be male. A few other things factor into that. But the split is weighted more heavily toward males.
I want to know what is unknown.
Well, Heather told me what I should say there, but actually on some of the reports, if a patient isn't contacted, it may go down as no gender declared on the report, things like that.
But that was a Bruce Jenner factor.
Yeah, that's actually how Heather wanted me to answer it.
He didn't say that, did he?
Here you can see how it breaks out between residents and non-residents, heavily weighted toward residents of Waushara County, with non-residents not even making up a quarter. Again, if we didn't contact a patient, standby events, or if they didn't obtain that information, in some cases, by the time the report is written, we may not even have all of the information on the person. So there are times some of this data goes unrecorded or goes down as unknown. Here's probably one of the more important parts financially is our payer mix. And you can see that Medicare makes up about 38% of our payer mix, with commercial insurance coming in at about a quarter. Self-insured at 18% is very high. Those are private pay, or sometimes that equates to no pay. 18% is very high. Medicaid at 10% is fairly low. These are kind of the pre-Affordable Care Act numbers from 2014. So the chances are we'll see those Medicaid numbers increase for the 2015 report, and hopefully those self-insured go down. We'll probably see those numbers flip-flop. And then contracted services, either we provide some services through the Veterans Administration, we provide some services to hospitals under contracts. That made up about 8% of our payer mix. And this is interesting because it shows you why about 50% of everything we bill out is written off each each year. Because Medicare and Medicaid allowables are listed in the right-hand columns there, and our 2014 charges are listed in the left-hand column. Those are based on, for the most part, actual costs of providing the service. And you can see that the feds don't believe necessarily in reimbursing at what our cost is. One of the things in a rural area, the cost of providing the service is considerably higher than it is in an urban area, simply because of the reduced volume. So the feds do take that into account to a certain extent in the Medicare reimbursement, but not so much in the Medicaid. And you can see in a lot of instances there, Medicaid reimburses about 10 cents on the dollar. In the case of Medicare and Medicaid allowables, really have no way to go after anyone for the balance of that. It has to be written off. So that's why our contractual adjustments run about 50% of everything we bill out. We participated in the strategic planning process, as many of you did, and as a result of that, we developed a new mission, vision, and value statement for our department. Our mission is to apply innovation within a culture of safety to improve the lives of people in the communities we serve. We accomplish this through provision of outstanding healthcare services, progressive medical education, consumer advocacy, and consumer education. And those are truly going to be our areas of focus as we move forward now. Everyone in the department was involved in this process. They had an opportunity to review all the mission statements they had over the years, and then took what they thought were the key components of what our mission statement should be moving forward, and we took the most common themes and wrote them into the mission statement. Use that same approach with the vision statement. Our vision is to foster continuous value enhancement and quality improvement of healthcare while being recognized as a leader in the provision of mobile health services. And we'll touch a little bit on the mobile health services concept in a few slides, but EMS in the future will not look like EMS looked in the past. When I think of the 35 years that I've been in the industry, we've seen a lot of changes. And we haven't begun to see changes compared to what we'll see over the next decade or two. It'll start to look totally different. Our values: compassion, dependability, innovation, professionalism, and safety. And we want to take a look ahead. What's the future of EMS going to look like? Nobody knows for sure, but there's a few things that we have a pretty good handle on. One of the things that we're going to have here, you're going to see in the very near future, a new look in our department. The uniforms are changing, and you'll see some of the folks already in their new uniforms. You'll see everybody in their new uniforms by January 1st. And that was done to promote an appearance of professionalism, as well as to improve their safety. You'll notice that the new uniforms and new outerwear are highly visible, as opposed to the black that they often wore as outerwear previously. So it'll be high visibility lime, retroreflective striping that meets the ANSI requirements. And the uniforms, as I said, will be completely switched over by January 1st. The other thing you'll see is on vehicles. We took very much the same approach when we had to replace one vehicle this year. The striping package on that is very conspicuous. All retroreflective, high visibility colors, and it's all done for safety. We want other traffic to see us and want to be very conspicuous as we go down the roadway. Another change you'll see in the not too distant future is the system design. We'll be taking the two transport ambulances that are currently stationed here in Wautoma, and one of those transport ambulances will move up to the Wild Rose area. We're going to trial that for the last quarter of this year, see how it works out. We've given it a lot of thought, done a lot of research, and we think that that's going to be a better design for our system in the end, provide better service to all the users of our system. EMS will probably be an antiquated term as we move forward. Emergency medical services was probably a good term when it first started to be used, but what we found is statistically 95% of what we do does not relate to any sort of life-threatening emergency. So probably a more reasonable term would be paramedic services. And what we'll see is that the paramedics will become a more integrated part of the healthcare system in the United States. A lot of other countries already utilize that model, and it's gaining a lot of momentum here in the United States. So probably the nomenclature will change in the not too distant future. One of the other interesting changes that I think you'll see, particularly in rural EMS, and we'll see it here at some point, consolidation, regionalization, and partnerships. For everyone to survive and everyone to provide the level of services that we've all come accustomed to, it'll take some creative system design, and it'll take collaboration with our neighbors to do that. In fact, so far this year, this calendar year, I think we've had 3 other governmental entities come to us either for requests for proposals for service or for some guidance on how they might redesign their systems. So everyone is fighting the same battles, trying to figure out how to provide a good service and do it with the financial resources that are available. Partnerships will include everything from other ambulance agencies to hospitals to public health agencies, departments of aging. We'll start to have collaborative efforts with folks we never thought of partnering with before. So it's an exciting time in EMS from that respect. Reimbursement reform. You hear a lot of talk about healthcare reform. Healthcare reform really doesn't exist. Reimbursement reform exists, and that drives changes in the healthcare model. So that reimbursement reform, actually, the federal government's desired end result would be to make that a population-based reimbursement rather than a fee-for-service reimbursement. EMS is uniquely situated to benefit from that type of a model because it would reimburse based on your population rather than the number of times you provide service or the types of services you provided. So as we move forward, I think we'll see a lot of design changes in the healthcare system that are driven by that reimbursement reform. And the last thing that I think we'll see as we move forward is the harnessing of more and more technology. We're very technology-based already. Our education will become much more technology-based. Our patient care will become much more technology-based. And even the way that the dispatchers keep track of what resources are available and what resources to send to a scene will become more and more reliant on higher levels of technology. So we'll see that really become more important. It's become very important over the last 2 decades. I think we'll see that every aspect of our business is going to be touched by technology in the next decade. And as I promised, I'll keep it short. Any questions, comments? Otherwise, thank you for your attention.
Are you enjoying working for Washare County? I'll put you on the spot big time.
I love it.
Great.
What did you expect him to say?
It's on record. You don't say it.
Yeah, good answer.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, Deb, you're on. Administration Department Annual Report. Good evening.
Before I get started on my annual report, I just wanted to mention that the Tri-County Economic Development Corporation is having its 10th anniversary this year. And so October 15th at Tuscumbia, they're going to be having a celebration, a recognition of that, and so you are all invited to attend that. I will put a copy of this in your mailbox. So it's kind of hard to do a 2014 recap when you're so far into 2015, so I'm sure I'm going to intermix quite a bit of the information and refer to both years. The administration's mission statement is, our mission is to use the best solutions to provide the best possible service. Administration is a little unique in that we are the internal support for all of the departments. And so we don't do a lot of direct customer, client, resident contact. Most of the things we do are internal support. But we also do land records, so that is something that affects a lot of our citizens. So we're kind of a hodgepodge of things. We take care of all of the human resources. We do GIS. Human resources includes payroll and benefits. And then we also do data processing. So we're kind of a hybrid. And every county does administration a little bit differently, but that's how it's set up here. Our vision statement is administration will develop, encourage, and value an environment that provides high-quality supportive services. So again, that's our goal, is to help the internal engine keep running. I have 5 staff members. Michelle Olson has been with me for, she keeps saying, half of her life. Probably feels a lot more right now because she's helping to do payroll, and she's really stepped up to the plate for us. Mike Abbotts is our data processing coordinator. He's planning on retiring in about 1.5 years. Sean Kelly is our GIS land information officer. Sandy Grossnick was here in 2014, but in 2015 she did resign, and she was here for 37 years. So a lot of knowledge went out the door. In 2014, I asked the county board if I could get some additional help, and you were gracious enough to give me that. And so early in 2015, Liz Johnson joined us as a human resource specialist. Zach Newton is the person that we hired to replace Sandy. We took the opportunity to look at what we provided in the county. Sandy had pretty much just looked at payroll and benefits. And we really needed some extra help in the GIS area. And so we reconfigured that position. We decided to outsource most of the payroll operation, and we hired somebody that really has the GIS background. I've done hundreds of interviews in my life, but when we interviewed Zach, we were talking about being detail-oriented, because GIS and payroll are kind of an odd combination, but one of the things that are common to both positions is that you're very detail-oriented. So I was asking him to explain to me, how does he feel he's detail-oriented? And he immediately said, well, I was in Afghanistan for 1 year, and I was the guy that checked the roads for IED. He said, I'm very detail-oriented. So that was like the best answer I've ever had. So anyway, we did hire Zach, and so he's helping Sean in the GIS area, and then he's also starting to train in the ADP, which is going to be our new payroll system. So Michelle, Liz, myself, and Zach are all being trained on ADP right now. So we report to the county board, or my position reports to the county board, and I serve at your pleasure, so if you want me to walk out the door today, just let me know. The committees that I report to on a regular basis are the Executive Committee, the Personnel Committee, and then Sean reports to the Land Records Committee. Some data that's just very specific to 2014 is we had 413 people that we did payroll for. So I know we're a small county, but there were 413 people that were processed through payroll. In 2014, we're just starting that baby boom wave, where we're starting the wave of people retiring. We processed 50 new employees. So if you look at it, about 1/8 of our employees are retired during that year. So, you know, we're just starting on the wave of that. You're going to see a lot of that over the next probably 6-7 years, where you're going to have a lot of retirements. Payroll, just payroll, is over $13 million in 2014. The health insurance costs are about $2.8 million. Health insurance costs that the county pays 85% of the premium and the employees pay 15%. And then the county also provides money for a health savings account and a health reimbursement account. So the $2.8 million includes those costs. In 2014, we went out to bid. So health insurance is very expensive, so we decided to go out for bid, and so it would be for the 2015 insurance. But there's a lot of background information that goes into doing a full bid, and so it took a lot of time, but we ended up staying with Network Health Plan. One of the big changes we did from 2014 to 2015 is we set up our premiums to have, right now, or in 2014 it was just single family. Those were the premiums. But in 2015 we changed it to employee single, employee spouse, employee child, and full families. We changed that premium structure a little bit. We were thinking that maybe people that had a working spouse maybe would, shift the cost of the spouse to their own insurance or wherever the spouse worked. It didn't really play out that way, but we're trying. We're trying to do that. So some of the things that we do to try to mitigate the increases in insurance is we do like a lot of wellness initiatives. We do weight loss. We do 5-a-day fruit challenges. We try to shake things up to try to get people to think more healthy. And when we do our health risk assessments, they actually come on site and then they do these assessments. And we take a lot of data from that. And so things that we found is we're overweight. Great. We're overweight and high blood pressure and a lot of diabetes. So those are the things we kind of target on as we do our wellness initiatives. We had the retirement costs were with the state of Wisconsin retirement program, and that's over $1 million that the county pays towards that. In 2014, we had 12 reportable OSHA claims. So that's not all the injuries, but there were 12 that rose to the level that they had to be reported through OSHA. And that involved 54 days away from work and 164 days of restricted duty. So I know that I really harp on people about safety and using good routines. But one of the reasons for doing that is the state has an experience mod rate, and that is attached directly to your insurance premium. So our insurance premium is about $323,000 a year, and they take that number times the mod rate. So it can be as low as 0.5, it can be as high as 2. So just for ease of explaining this, so if you had a $100 bill that was your premium, you take it times that 0.71, and your premium's now $71. It could go as high as 2, so that $100 bill could end up being $200. So when you look at $323,000, it's really important to control those risks, and so that's why I harp on that. Let's see, what else? Some of the things in 2014 that we dealt with is we settled WPPA and IAFF contracts. That's our EMS group. The nurses union decertified. I worked on the Civil Rights Compliance Plan, which is the plan and about 10 addendums. So that's something that we're required to do for a lot of our state and federal programs. We updated the county website. I worked with our bonding agent to keep our standards and poor rating updated. I personally am on the Selective Service Board for Waushara County, and so I did that training. We've added cyber enhancement coverage, so that's when the hacksters come in. We've got some coverage. We did annual safety training, and we did a tornado drill. And let's see, we're working on strategic planning. I recommended different policy improvements for 2015. I work with the Regional CDBG Housing Committee, the Waushara County Economic Development Corporation, and the Tri-County Economic Development Corporation. And one of the big things that we were doing in data processing is we switched from everybody having their own workstation to something called a thin client. So if you've been in the data processing business for very long, we had mainframes. When I was a kid and just learning how to do all the computer stuff, everybody had mainframes. So you had a computer the size of this room. Well, then the whole industry switched to everybody having a desktop. Well, now it's flipping back, and you're having a kind of a mainframe thing again. One of the advantages of having a mainframe is that when Mike is doing work and maintenance, he does it once. When you had desktops, he had to go to every desktop. So instead of doing it once, he had to do it 200 times. So I know it's a big switch in our philosophy, but it saves on manpower, so that's why you do things like that. We also do contract with RMM. They're a group out of Wausau, and they do our engineering for us. We could never afford to have an engineering staff, so we do contract with RMM for that. And we did expand our storage system. Jeff's going to talk a little bit about storage as he talks about body cameras. But that's something we just keep having to expand because of video and just the amount of data we have. So that's really all I have tonight. So did you have any questions? Thank you.
All right, next we will have a report on body cameras. Sheriff Pitt.
Thank you. Good evening. I wanted to have this conversation with you because there's a lot of talk going around this nation about body cameras worn by police officers. I've been gathering a lot of information, and I wanted to share some of that with you tonight. Deb? Come on, Terry. Body cameras are providing recorded and audio and video information of what the deputies encounter. They're helpful for providing evidence in court. It really makes a case when the district attorney is able to show jurors or the judge what has occurred in front of our deputies. It also helps protect our deputies against false claims of misconduct. We have a good group of people that do the job right, and we have very few problems with misconduct or claims against our people. Our present squad camera systems have already done these two things, and it has turned out to be a valuable asset for us. Next one. This is a picture of a body camera. They're all pretty much standard. They're very small. They are usually worn on the front of the officer, usually chest high or lapel high somewhere, but you want to be able to have that right in front of you so you're basically recording what the deputy is seeing. That gives you an idea how big they are. The second generation of body cameras have come out and are getting smaller. Next slide. The body camera is the one in the middle. The cell phone is off on the right, and then there's examples of business cards. So that gives you an idea of the size of these camera systems. Next one. There's several good things about body cameras. They're small, usually worn on the front chest of the area. As I said, they can record both audio and video where it's pointed. These small cameras, the one that you just saw, can record several hours of video. Most systems are turned on manually by the officer when they want to. Some of them are part of a squad video system, so when any of the triggers in the squad video are turned on, it also turns on the body camera. Next slide. There are some bad things, though. The video will only show where it's pointed. It won't show anything to the side or behind the officer. And most systems are turned on by the officer. What happens if the officer forgets? Things happen quickly, and the last thing you forget is to turn on your body camera. With repetition and conscious effort, it almost becomes a secondary act, but you are going to have times where an event's going to occur and it may not be recorded because it wasn't turned on. Lately, with officer-involved shootings within the last year, especially in this country, there's been a lot of talk by citizens. The media and politicians are saying that all law enforcement officers should wear body cameras. That is a quick and rightful answer to a lot of the situations that we have. But there's more to the story. The technology is cheap and easy. The body cameras that start off from anywhere from a couple $100, $400 or $500, up to $1,000, depending on what quality and what components you get with the system. There's talk of federal grants for purchasing body cameras, but that's just it. They're limited. What I've seen so far from the federal government is they're limited to the purchase of body cameras. They do not allow you to do anything for server space. They do not allow anything for additional staff. The body camera is the cheapest part of this whole equation. As we go on, I'll talk about the other components that we need to think about. Everybody says it'll make law enforcement more transparent. Some cases, and there's been several instances that have occurred this year or the last 2 years where law enforcement screwed up. Law enforcement did a bad job. I was sitting at home watching the same videos, and I'm thinking, that officer should not even be carrying a gun, should not even be doing the job. But there are other times, too, where officers are doing the job right, and they're doing a good job. So, the question has come up, and what does everybody want from law enforcement? concern that we have is should the federal level or the state level make mandatory for all law enforcement to carry body cameras? We have to be careful what comes out of Washington or what comes out of Madison, because as we all know, this will be a big unfunded mandate the way it's being talked about right now, and that's the concern we have. The other concern I have is what requirements are going to be placed on this type of a system, and there's some things that we'll talk about further on. I call this the iceberg conversation. What we talked about so far is just the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about, nobody's talked about except the law enforcement professionals. Media has now talked about a lot of things, citizen groups, politicians, their answer has been make everybody wear a body camera and the problem is solved. There's a lot of questions we need answers to, and there's a lot of questions that we have to have this discussion on. Storage space. We can make videos, and we can make a lot of videos. How do you store it? Time and effort to handle these videos. It's very easy. Our officers right now, they pull their squads into the side of the building, they turn on a switch, and they automatically download the videos from the car into the server in the office. That's what they have to do to upload the videos they made during that shift. But when we go back to make copies of the videos for the district attorney's office or for open records requests, it takes staff time to look up the video, preview it, transfer it over to a disk, and then complete that records copy. It's something that I can do. There's two of us in the office right now that are making copies of squad videos. And that's something that's myself and Lieutenant Vaccaro do at our desk. I mean, I can start to process a video and I can do other things either on my computer or on my desk and that. But it does take time to produce these videos for open records requests. Every time we make a referral for charges of the district attorney's office, it's a standard item that we send over squad videos, if they exist, for that case referral, because we need to get everything for the district attorney to make his case, make his prosecution. And pictures and recordings and statements are all part of the officer's reports that go over, and squad videos have become an instant and automatic response to the district attorney's office. Deb? Storage space. Our present squad system produces a lot of videos. We have 13 squads that have filled up a server with a capacity of 1.5 terabytes. We have increased the size of our server 2 times since we started our camera project 5 years ago. All new squad videos, or all new squad video systems that are being manufactured now are all high definition. Body cameras are also high definition. This means more storage space. If we were to upgrade our present squads to high definition squad videos, we would need twice the server space. We would need 3 terabytes of server space. If we outfit all road deputies and detectives, we will need 19 body cameras and a server to store that that's between 12 to 18 terabytes. That's a rough estimation, talking with some vendors, and just the stuff that is out in the law enforcement profession. You know, they're figuring, you know, every shift an officer works, whether it's an 8-hour shift or a 12-hour shift, will produce X amount of video. And it's kind of a guess by gosh type of number right now, but as we've seen with our squad videos, we've exceeded our expectations 2 times, and we've had to increase server space. If we put the body camera video and the squad videos all on one server, we would need a server that stores between 15 and 21 terabytes of video. Now, when I was putting this together, I'm trying to figure out what's a terabyte of information. 1 byte of information is 1 character. 10 bytes of information could be like a word. 100 bytes of information could be a sentence on any computer. I found this on the internet. 1 terabyte is approximately 1 trillion bytes of information. 1 trillion bytes of information. Or, as they say, it would hold about 300 hours of good quality video. 1 terabyte, 300 hours of video. terabyte could hold 1,000 copies of Encyclopedia Britannica. 10 terabytes could hold the printed collection of Library of Congress. We're talking about server spaces that's going to hold more information than the Library of Congress. A lot of this server space depends on how long videos are stored. We have, the officers, the deputies have 10 categories of videos that they can choose to categorize their videos from. Simple equipment tests, which will only last for 60 days on the server. Traffic warnings, traffic citations, we hold for 180 days. Criminal arrests, OWI arrests, high-speed chases, use of force, we hold on the server for 1 year. With our system, when those videos come to their deadline, they automatically are deleted from the server. Nobody has to go in and delete the videos. We can't delete our videos the way our system is set up. No officer can delete a video in our system. It's set up to go by the lifespan of that video. So when it comes to either 180 days or 365 days, that video will automatically be removed from the server unless we go and we put it in the archive file. Archive file, we'll put it in there and it'll store it for 10 years. So a lot of it will depend on if the federal government or the state government mandates we have body cameras, and if they have a mandate of how long we have to store those videos. That will depend on how much server space we'll need, and that's something that has to be talked about when you're talking about body cameras. Next slide. What do we record? The common sense approach and the approach from the media, the public, and the lawmakers is we record everything. It seems only right. Everything we do should be recorded. But what about the things that we see that ordinary citizens shouldn't see or really don't need to see? We see dead bodies. We see child abuse. We see people with mental illness. We see naked people. We see victims of motor vehicle crashes. Under the present system, all this would be under open records request. Anybody could get this information. Do you want to have that information made available? That's something that has to be discussed. Next slide. The concern in the law enforcement profession is, what if the legislation is passed either at the federal level or state level requiring us to wear body cameras, but there's no direction on what we record, or how we record, or how we store this stuff. I can see this happening where a law will be passed, but there'll be a lot of questions that we'll spend a lot of time and effort trying to figure out what they need if they don't address these specific issues. Present privacy laws, protecting juvenile information are things we got to consider. HIPAA requirements are something that come up in every conversation across the country with regards to body camera. HIPAA is one of those things that I think has been, probably has a lot, there's a lot of misconceptions about HIPAA, and nobody really seems to understand it, but everybody raises HIPAA as something to stand behind or to stand by, and it's a confusing issue, and that's something that we deal with all the time. We know, and there is no expectation of privacy in the back of our squads. Anybody that's sitting in the back of our squads are being recorded, and there's no expectation of privacy. But if with a body camera we're going into a person's home, the person has a right to privacy. How does this play into their constitutional rights to privacy? Integrity. All of our videos, all of our squad videos are considered evidence. Body camera video is also considered evidence. We need to maintain that to evidentiary standards. FBI has standards for storing video. We have our own secured server at the office. It's pretty much isolated from the rest of the World Wide Web. So we meet the standards for the FBI as far as storing videos. There's talk of storing videos on the cloud. The question is, I have not seen anything that the cloud meets the FBI standards for storing video. The other aspect of it, if there would be some part of the cloud that would be able to store videos, who has ownership of that video? The other part of this conversation with the cloud is, I understand that there's a lot of stuff that can be stored on the cloud, but my understanding is to get the information from our office to the cloud, you need a lot of bandwidth, you need a lot of computer standards to push this stuff to the cloud. My understanding is it can be quite expensive to put stuff on the cloud because you're paying for the transmission to the cloud. Videos are the biggest file that you can send anywhere. They take up a lot of server space, they fill up a disk when we're making copies. If you're pushing videos back and forth from the cloud, somebody's probably getting rich on that transportation of that information over the cloud. And that's something else that I think needs to be looked at. The cloud isn't necessarily the answer. The media, the public says it is. I beg to differ with them until they can prove me wrong. Next slide. Processing the videos. I touched upon this before, but we're making copies of our squad videos for the DA, and that's helping with prosecutions. It's expediting the cases. It's expediting. It's helping the district attorney make his prosecutions. We're making also, we get requests for open records where we're making squad videos for the public. This work will increase with adding the videos coming from body cameras. Federal government has a white paper that I got some of this information off of. And in the city of Phoenix, for every 100 body cameras that the Phoenix Police Department deploys on the street, their district attorney's office needs one person, one full-time person to review and handle all those videos that come into their office for prosecution and evidentiary purposes. White paper also mentioned the Duluth Police Department, and I did talk to the Superior Chief this winter, Superior, Wisconsin. They have, I believe it's an individual that has an open standard records request to have all their body camera videos presented to him. How he's paying for it, I don't know. I don't know what they're charging or whatever, but Duluth PD, Superior PD are making copies of all their body-worn cameras for this person to comply with open records requests. Next slide. Thank you. It's easy to say that law enforcement should have body cameras, but at what cost? Who's responsible for all the things we talked about? Right now, my belief is with the way things have been coming out of Washington and with the way things have been coming out of Madison, it's going to fall right on our laps. It's going to be an unfunded mandate where Washington or Madison is going to tell us it's up to you, local bodies, county board, sheriff's department, to figure out your cost. We'll give you money to pay for the cameras, but the rest of it you got to figure out. Those are all things that we need to be aware of and on top of. We need to have this discussion but not get caught up in the politics of the moment. Right now, this is a political driven issue, and I don't think all these things are being talked about and all these things are being thought about, and I wanted to share that with you. Are there any questions?
We go ahead and get cameras, and then the state or the feds say, oh, your cameras aren't good enough, you gotta have something better. We've had that happen, I think, with radios, and so that can...
Yeah, that's the other reason. I wanted to, and I didn't say this when I started off my talk, but I am all for body cameras. I think, you know, if it were up to me, you know, every one of our deputies would wear a body camera. I believe in them. I believe our people do it the right way. I've got nothing to hide. I'm all for body cameras. I would, you know, be the first one to jump up and say yes. But, like you said, are we going to go ahead? There's already a lot of departments that have jumped into this with present systems, and are there going to be requirements that come out that are going to make their systems obsolete? So that is an issue, yes.
How are other police departments or counties dealing with this? If they have body cameras, do they have a policy? As far as, okay, I'm going in this house, I ask the person when I'm going in, I've got a camera, you know, can I have it on? You know, as far as, you know, what are you allowing?
That's an open question right now. I think that would be something that we would sit down with Ruth and discuss. That would be something that we would probably have to sit down with Scott to discuss on some things. But right now, there is no real control over when those body cameras are on. As I said, the body cameras are very popular with small departments because for a couple $100, the village departments and our Wautoma Police Department have body cameras for their officers. And they're storing their videos on a desktop computer. Well, for one camera, that works out. For 19 cameras, that's not going to work out. But right now, there is no direction as far as when they're on or when they're off. The common sense approach should be they should be on all the time. But then, like I said, what happens when you go into somebody's house? Where does that expectation of privacy reside? Strange as it may seem, if we're in a house and we've all seen it where a toddler runs by, they drop their diapers and they're running naked, that's recorded on camera. Technically, is that child pornography? Do you want to record somebody that's having a mental health issue that it's not always pretty. We see bodies, you see traffic crashes that you wouldn't show anybody else, but if we record that, that's public record. How do you handle that information for releasing that information? Right now, there's no answers to a lot of this. A lot of the protocols, a lot of the policies that are in place are usually by department, and who knows if they'll run afoul of any state or federal law, or I don't know of videos that have gone to the point of being contested in the courts as far as violation of civil rights or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of unknowns right now, and everybody's kind of doing it on their own initiative and taking their own guidelines on how they're doing it. I believe I have seen one, and there would be one coming out, but Lexipol will be driven by state law and federal law that exists right now. But the concern is if either the federal level or state level come out and say you'll record everything all the time, that's where we have the problems. And knowing, well, the experience coming out of both those bodies, governing bodies, laws have not really been thought out too well, in my opinion. And I can see them come out with laws that are going to be in direct conflict with constitutional issues.
There'll be a HIPAA versus public record, dilemma, really.
It's not an issue right now with the squad car videos, but a lot of body camera systems have the ability or should have the ability to go back to either mute sounds or blur certain parts of the image, pixelating or whatever they call it, to kind of cover up faces of people you don't want to have seen or body parts or something like that. But at that point, you're editing the content of that video, and then do you run afoul of any law that may come out that I've already seen some of the proposed legislation or proposed laws being talked about is, the officer or the department will not have the ability to edit the content of that video. So do we show everything, warts and all, to comply with the law that, anybody else, you wouldn't be allowed to show that on a TV program. The FCC would be all over them. Lexipol is a system that we use. Wisconsin Counties Association entered into an agreement with a firm out of California that develops and writes policy, and we use it in our office. We've got, I believe the county paid for the cost of our Lexipol, but insurance company, pardon me. But they have we're in the process of adopting and updating our policies using Lexipol, and it's all written by this company. It all meets Wisconsin laws and standards, and we have the ability to go in and modify the language to suit our department, and it's very beneficial for us, and it's very easy for when it's all said and done. And Lexipol does come out with updates, and they do come out with new policies as new things come on the horizon, like body cameras.
Do you have any body cameras now?
No, we do not. We just have the squad videos.
One body camera cost.
Pardon?
One camera cost, do you think?
You can get them as low as $400, and you can pay as much as $1,000 for them, depending on what you want as far as capabilities, different features in that. A lot of them, you have to see if they're able to be networked, in with other other body cameras, or if it's a standalone type of a body camera. So that's what we've been seeing so far from the vendors out there.
Any other questions?
Could you think of a situation where you'd want to have a body camera just available to use in certain circumstances?
The problem with that is if you use it selectively, or if you only offer it to one person, we get into a situation where we don't have access for everybody to have the ability to use a body camera, or if we just use it on this one traffic stop and nothing happens, but the next traffic stop we don't use it and something happens, then it's more of a liability issue, where you really have problems if you're if you don't have everybody equipped with the same equipment and that. So it wouldn't really do us any good to have just one, or use one partially during the shift, because about the time you'd really want to have it, it may not be with the deputy that has it, or whatever. So it wouldn't do us any good. We need either to be all in or all out as far as the body cameras, in my opinion.
So probably the wise choice would be to wait till state or federal mandates come down and determine the type of equipment and where to go with it, instead of spending money up front and not knowing if that's going to do the job.
Exactly, Barry. I mean, that's my thoughts, that's my feeling, to see what comes down, what the requirements are, and then we need to have the discussion, purchasing server space. And I am of the opinion that to deal with the amount of videos that the body cameras would be producing along with the squad videos, I would probably have to hire a secretary to deal with that. We can make all the videos, and I can have the guys dumping all the videos in the world, but when the district attorney's office, or when we start getting open records requests to produce copies, it takes time and it takes effort to do that. And right now, I would need another person probably to handle that. But it's going to take, what it'll take, and Brian's probably got a better grasp on this than that too, but, it'll take, somebody to get sued. Right now, I think you're seeing with law enforcement, everybody's getting caught up on whether the actions of the officer were justified or not. And so you're looking to record what that officer is doing, and, if somebody wants to make a push, they can make a push that, well, what was the EMT doing that caused my spouse to lose their life or whatever. So, but then again, you're coming in conflict with existing laws that are already out there.
That's where you're going to run into the Constitution is going to come into play in the whole thing, because they can run with this thing to everywhere where they're stepping well over the bounds of the already existing laws.
There are studies out, and there are preliminary studies from agencies that have been running video camera or body cameras for the last 2 or 3 years, and their rates of officer misconduct have gone down, and the rates of complaints against the officers have gone down, and the use of force have gone down because the bad guys know they're being recorded. We've already seen that happen with our squad videos is once the people realize they're being recorded, their attitudes change. They're much more a proper citizen, and they're not such a problem that they know, their actions are being recorded. So, if you will, that halo effect carries on when people know they're being recorded. So, that's some of the first information that's coming out of studies with departments that do have body cameras. But like I said, our people are doing the job, they're doing it right, and we've got nothing to hide. If somebody wants to put body cameras on our people, I'm not afraid of it, but I want all these other questions answered before we do that.
Thank you, Jeff.
UW Extension Agents Patrick Neary and Marion Schilling, Public Health Department Director Patty Wolfile, and Human Services Department Director.
Hello. The Central Wisconsin Health Department Development Summit occurred in August on the 11th in Green Lake. Yep, that's it. Yep. So the session was opened by Eloise Anderson. She's the Secretary of Wisconsin Department of Children and Family Services. She discussed the face of rural poverty. And then Karen Timberlake, she talked about why the economic development people should work with health people. And she said, health isn't just about health care. It's about things like your schools and your homes and your jobs. That's what health care is about too. And then we heard from Bo Gellings. He's from the Department of Workforce Development, and he talked about how the economy has changed and we have to change with it, the social, economic policy challenges in the next 20 years. And it's about things like who's in the workforce, what are the ages, who's still in there, what the age is, what the gender is, and then the generational changes, the millennials and the baby boomers, what the expectations are, how things have changed in our expectations about where we live, work, and play. And then we had a lot of breakout sessions where each county met and talked about the demographics of our counties, and then we had specific conversations about specific issues, and that's what Marianne and Patrick are going to walk you through a brief conversation about with Sheriff County.
So the presentation that we have here is just a part of what we did. We first showed some demographics, and there was also other information, as Patty mentioned, to start a conversation. And this summit was to get some ideas developed around economic development and health. So if you want to move to the first one. One of the things that was talked about was the broadband coverage. And the dark areas are the areas that have hard broadband coverage. So that would be DSL or fiber optics. And the summit participants said that one of the things that we need to have in our area, this was looking at the 6 counties that are in that picture, is some broader broadband coverage because it doesn't cover everything. Wireless is a little bit trickier to illustrate, so this is looking at physical broadband coverage. One of the main thing that came out of the summit was a willingness for communication, and broadband is related to communication. And the summit was that the participants had a willingness and interest to work together across county lines, between institutions and private and public involvement, and to develop a common vision or common goal that everyone can work towards. And so the contact information was shared by the participants, and they're willing to participate in some kind of broad perspective and working on a goal or vision of what the region could be. Want to move to the next one? This one looks at working age individuals in the county, and their access to a vehicle. And the scale there is 0 would be if no one in that area, everyone in that area that has a 0 has access to a vehicle. And you'll notice that the town of Richford has the greatest number of residents without access to a vehicle because this is looking at motorized vehicles, and the town of Richford has a lot of Amish, so they wouldn't necessarily have access to motorized vehicle. Some of the participants identified that the transportation might be a barrier to employment, and Plainfield and Watoma might stand out a little bit more than the others, but transportation could be something that would hinder people from being able to find a job or find some employment. And some solutions that were offered were public transportation and having businesses provide that transportation. Want to go to the next one? This is looking at households, the senior households, the age 65 and older households. The map changes a little bit here. Both of these don't include the prison in Red Granite because obviously they wouldn't have access to vehicles, but they're not counted in this anyway. So, but you see that Red Granite does show up darker here, and it's the senior population. As there's a larger number, 82 of those that don't have access to vehicles.
Quick question there, Patrick. Would that include senior centers?
It wouldn't include it. No, it wouldn't include the senior
the residence
homes. That would be considered a group quarters, and this only looked at non-group quarters.
Okay. Thank you.
So the transportation needs that were identified that might relate more to the senior population is that there's still a need for transportation to get to health care and food and other activities. And some solutions that were offered were coordinated transportation, maybe some public-private partnerships, and one that might include a way of addressing both workers and seniors is multi-use of the school bus system. Maybe adults could ride the school bus as well as the students riding the school bus if the bus isn't full with the students going to schools. In some of the larger cities, the school-age students ride the public transportation, the public buses, which is ridden by everybody. So it's not that far-fetched an idea. The other might be that you'd use the school buses in the time between when they're not transporting students back and forth from school. You want to move to the next one? This chart shows you the first column there is people who work in Waushara County. And the second column there is people who live in Waushara County. There's about 5,800 jobs that are filled by county residents. And so the blue part is the number of jobs in the county that are not filled by county residents. They're filled by somebody who's outside the county. Outside the county might mean city of Berlin because they're right across the border, or it could be Westfield, which is just south of the border. So it might not be that they're commuting from a great distance, but they're commuting into the county. The other is the number of residents who are commuting outside the county to find work. That's that gray part of the column. And you see that a little close to half of our population leaves to find work. So in addition to the transportation issues, the summit participants identified that maybe this is a concern that should be looked at, because if 48% of our population is working outside of the county, where are they doing their shopping, their recreation, and their socializing? Are they participating, or are they involved in the county, or are they more connected to the communities that they're working in? And then some other things related to the business interests is that they thought there was a need for succession planning, that we have businesses in the county that are owned by families, and those people who are owning those businesses are getting up in age. Do they have plans for how they're going to pass on that business to the next generation, or sell it to someone else to continue on that business? The other thing that was talked about is we do have a number of local resources to assist in business development. UW Extension is one of those resources, and then we also, the county is connected with activities of the Tri-County Economic Development Corporation and the Waushara County Economic Development Corporation and CAP Services. And there are some other resources that can be used for county businesses, and that was brought up as a benefit that we have here within not only Waushara County, but within our 7-county region that we were looking at. Want to go to the next one?
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about the median household income, and this chart shows the income for our county, and then it shows the gray line is for the state of Wisconsin. And most of the counties saw a significant increase in that median household income between 1990 and 2000. And then that really reflects when we had a more robust economy. And then there was that decline between 2000 and 2010, which reflects the recession. And some Wisconsin counties have started to see a modest increase by 2013. Waushara County has not. And by the way, these figures have been adjusted for inflation and are presented in 2013 dollars. So the state median in 2013 was $51,474, and Waushara County was $43,000. So about $8,000 under the state. We'll look at the next slide, please, and that is looking at the average annual wages for all employment. The county data is shown in the orange columns, and the state of Wisconsin is shown in the gray line. And both the private and public employment are included in these figures. So it includes people that are employed in local, county, state government jobs, which are often but not always lower than the average wages than similar jobs in the private sector. So at thinking about the wages on these last two slides and how participants at the Health and Economic Summit responded to them, some of the statements included that people need a living wage, people are angry, they're poverty stricken because wages are so low, and that the summit participants also suggested that tax increment financing or TIF money should be reinvested in living wages and benefited jobs. So those are some thoughts from the summit. We'll go ahead to the next slide, and we'll skip that one, and that's the one I want to look at. We're going to look at the housing cost burden, and some of the people that I talk to when I'm working with them on their income and how to make ends meet, they may have a housing cost burden where they're paying rent or mortgage that is over 30% or more of their household income, and that's what this is looking at. So people that are spending 30% more of their income on housing are considered to be experiencing a housing burden, and their housing is not affordable. So the data that's on this chart is for all the towns, villages, and cities in Waushara County. The darker colors represent the hot spots that may be of concern when you're thinking about health and economic development in the areas where housing is less affordable and more of an economic burden. So it may be that the housing costs are higher, but it may more likely be that the incomes are lower, and those people, like, say, for example, if someone's making $1,000 a month and they're paying $500 on rent or a mortgage, 50% of their income is going towards housing, and that's definitely a burden. So as you take a look at this, you'll see, the pockets where they may be paying 39 to 43% are the darkest colors. There's some in Plainfield, Wautoma, Aurora, a little bit of pockets in Red Granite, and the town of Richford there too. So what we heard at the summit, or what some of those summit participants' comments were, they indicated that there should be policy solutions to solve homelessness. There's also a need to address homelessness through policy solutions and strategies to manage anti-affordable housing lobbies. And there's also a need for affordable housings. And of course, tying in with the wage slides, there's a need for higher wages or a living wage. Okay, next slide. This is the age wave, and we were talking about that. And as you see this progressing, it started in 2015 and it went to 2040. So this is what our state will look like in 2040 with a percent of the population age 65 and over. I think most of us in this room will be older than 65 in 2040. Not all of us. So if you look at Waushara County, we will be in that 27 to 43% of our population. So think about what that means. We need to have a skilled workforce that will help take care of the aging population and to support the services that we will need. On the positive side, with an aging population, there's also that ability that we can tap into that population to help support children or support young families with children when you think of social and emotional connections. There's also a need to pool resources. How can we pool resources with other agencies, other counties, as we look at our aging population? And also, there were some other interesting comments like building environmental trails, especially when you look at the counties that were represented at this summit. We have, beautiful outdoor areas, so building trails that would support both the aging population and the younger population too. Some other comments were because the aging population has experiences and connections, they may have time to do more volunteer work, or maybe we'll be working longer. We may not be retiring at 62 or 65. We also want to think, how can we create aging-friendly communities? What can we do to have those? And we need to also connect and utilize all the aging resources that we have available. So our population is aging, and we need to think ahead to what we can do to support that and make that a positive time. Okay. Any other questions, or any questions about any of that? All right. So next, I have Patrick is going to finish up with some other slides.
Next one. And this is looking at race and ethnicity in the county. The white population has pretty much been stagnant over this period of 2000 to 2014. And if you look at the growth in the other race and ethnicity groups, the Black and African American increase is primarily because of the Red Granite Prison. And the Hispanic and Latino population is not related to that Red Granite Prison because actually the prison doesn't have any Hispanic and Latinos in it. So that growth is entirely of our population here in the county. An interesting feature of the Hispanic population is that if you look at their demographics of that population versus the non-Hispanic population, is they're reversed in the way that in the age distribution. For the Hispanic and Latino population, they're going to be the ones entering the workforce, whereas with the non-Hispanic population, they're going to be the ones retiring from the workforce. So as they looked at the options and ideas from the summit participants, they want to look at exploring working together and address the issues of the region, but they acknowledge that not everyone is at the table at the summit, and there needs to be more people involved with the conversation, and it needs to be more inclusive to move forward to address some of the health and economic issues in the county. There's also needs to be an open-mindedness and open-minded to new ideas and new perspectives. and hopefully some of these slides gave you some perspectives on where Waushara County is. And with that, I'll turn it over to Patty and Dawn, who are going to talk about some of the future plans for this.
I guess just to reiterate where we started from, why do we care about all this information? And as Patty said in the beginning, we've seen the strong connection between the health of individuals and the socioeconomic status of the community, and vice versa. You need healthy people in a community in order to fill jobs. We had a lot of employers that say, we can't find people that can do these jobs. Drug and alcohol issues play in, all those sorts of things. And so they really kind of go hand in hand. And also, just on another note, the health care costs themselves. I remember that a few of us, I think Deb was there, and I know Sue Szymanski and I were there when Theta Care came in. You recall that, I think that was last summer. And they did a presentation about how a very small percentage of the population, say 5%, I don't have the exact numbers, but about 5%, they use 80% of the cost of health care, so it's very, any way that we as a community can work on both ends of the spectrum, trying to help our population be healthier, and then also the socioeconomic status of the community, raising that up, it's gonna work together, and it's gonna have benefits all the way around. So I guess with that, the future of this is there's about, 150, 160 people, I want to say, at the summit. We were fortunate that Bill Willer and economic development folks, there were some of those folks there from multiple counties of our 6 counties that we could have these discussions. So now the next step is that people signed up for what, if they're willing to work on next steps, and what some of those next steps would be. So I guess we would ask you guys if you have thoughts on that. First of all, we can certainly invite you all, anyone who might be interested, to work on groups that might take some of these issues. And then also, from what you've seen, is there any one of these in particular that you as a county board, feel should be focused on, or feel would take higher priority as we try to, again, raise the socioeconomic status of our community and also try to make our residents healthier? So what do you see as the top issues here?
Has to be the health of the individuals for your workforce, and namely drug and alcohol, because it's not just here, it's everywhere. I mean, you're talking about putting people back to work, but when they don't want to go to work because they can't, because that's the issue.
We just, and just so you're aware, Human Services did take back the outpatient adult services in the community. So we are going to be hiring another substance abuse counselor. But I mean, your point is really well taken, because a lot of times folks need inpatient treatment. On average, someone might need 7 times of inpatient treatment before they finally stay sober. And again, that's very costly. It's very costly. So preventative would be super, because you want to stop that before you even get there. And if we have a healthy community that can support those individuals.
Prevention always is, a dollar prevention versus otherwise. And then just if you get to the treatment, as she spoke of, we find that with drug treatment, it is highly expensive. And then there isn't enough of it. There's not enough providers that can take care of some of those drugs that are needed for costs. It's actually a big business right now. But yes, to have employers that say they can't pass the drug tests, and their addiction's huge.
And when you treat things like that, you're talking about resources which seem never to be there. But I think accountability to the individuals that are doing it too is a big factor.
It's comprehensive. It's complex.
I think the drug court, the TAD program that we have here in Waushara, is really working towards that, and there is some great work, because there's tons of accountability there. And you're right, you need both. You need the treatment and that accountability, and really prevention. That also, we know that not all prevention works either. So what is research evidence-based
Right,
prevention
evidence-based.
that really has shown to reduce alcohol and drug use.
Right, not doing the same programs over and over again, but things that have shown to work, so, very good. Other things that stuck out, Pat and Marion gave you a lot of things that they showed for data, and then a lot of suggestions that other people had given. Was there anything that kind of stuck out in your mind, or something that you thought of that you didn't hear? And sometimes it's putting you on the spot, but we certainly welcome you
Well, one of the
to
things-
be a part to the next steps. Because
One of
I-
the things that I saw in there was that Waushara County is definitely way below the state average in a living wage. Now, we need to find a way to raise that level somewhat in our county, and it's going to be, that's a lot easier said than done, obviously. But I think that would be one step in the right direction.
I believe that, Dawn, I think one comment that sometimes happens a lot, and it's true in some cases, that sometimes we say there are people out there that aren't willing to work, but some people are actually working in poverty. And when you look at that, that's actually the case, that there are people out there working, but they're actually working in poverty, so.
I guess I could tell you a few things that I took off away from the summit. Things that I maybe wouldn't normally think of in my own career or my own profession. But one thing is the broadband. I know about zero about technology myself or broadband. But one thing they talked about is even if we were, say, some entrepreneur wanted to come into Waushara County and create some business, if there's not that infrastructure in place there, then that's not going to be able to happen, or that's really going to limit that. So it's one thing that, okay, as a region, are there ways that we could work with a provider for broadband? What would it take to get broadband in all Waushara County? I don't know. That might be something that could be something I guess I wouldn't normally think of. And is there ways that we can pool? We have one great thing I think about Waushara County is we do have a lot of community involvement. You have a strong Kiwanis, Rotary, all these programs and people in Waushara County that seem to really care. And if we somehow pool our resources, could something like that happen, or even in our region? Just other things too, like getting the right people here, having the right resources here that people would want to come to Waushara County. So, for example, something as simple as Patty mentioned before, an environmental path or a bike path, or I think Marion mentioned it. Something that, I'm looking to move. I work maybe in Winnebago County, but I like the more rural life. Waushara County is this wonderful, I'm a real active person, and I want to, come here and live in a more rural setting. Taking advantage of our natural resources and what you have that's a really strength here. Other things like at Human Services we have a jobs program, which is for youth, delinquent youth. It's a grant funded by the Department of Justice that helps youth that owe restitution and owe court fines, pay that off, work to pay it off, and then we subsidize the employer. And again, the Department of Justice pays for it, so it's not coming out of county dollars. But what's so great about a program like that is it does so many things. First of all, it teaches all those soft skills to kids and youth that might not normally have those, so that they could take that further in their life. It shows accountability, goes into the accountability factor of I made a mistake, I broke the law, now I have to pay for it. And then it also shows that because they get a certain, say they get 50% of their check and 50% goes to their restitution or fines, it shows, I worked hard and I got something from it. And one of the guy who did the economic development from the state said that the biggest factor of someone or indicator that someone will be working at 21 is if they have a job at 16. And to me, that was really eye-opening. Like, if there's opportunities to expand that program, not just to our delinquent youth that are the troublemakers, but to any youth that might not have a job or will need those skills at risk or otherwise. Wow, if that's the biggest indicator that they're going to be working at 21, we want to have a population of people that work and are contributing back to the tax base and all those things. That is, I think, a strong
development, I think the workforce development guy, when we talked about the generations and expectations and wanting to build the businesses and get people here, either between tourism or business, it's a lot of what you have to look at if you want to build a economy back up, if you can. Slow move. But what's the expectation? What are people's expectations, and how can you deliver on that? It's not a quick fix. But looking at the data,
Tri-County Economic Development has been in place for 10 years. We've had that revolving loan fund in place for 10 years. They have over $1 million that they loan out. We have to be realistic about our expectations. We're not, the Mayville engineering is not something that you're going to capture all the time. So we've started many, many companies that have 10 or 12 employees. You know, that's really our niche. Dawn mentioned the natural resources. People come here because of the lakes and, the hunting and the fishing. So you identify what your niches are, and that's what you got to play off of. We're probably never going to have the, $300,000 a year jobs. I mean, that's just not our niche. So you find your niche, and that's what you strengthen. One of the things that I never see mentioned in any of this is strengthening families. The strengthening of families, to me, is what we're always missing on this. Government is not the answer. We have to get, our families have to be strong and strengthened. So to me, that's one piece that always seems to, it never gets mentioned, and that to me is a huge problem.
I think one of the Eloise, who's the first one who talked, she said, and maybe that fits partially with what you're talking about, Deb, is that many of us talk about what we think the right thing is to do. And she said, I've been all over Wisconsin, and she said, we need to get the people who are affected involved, because they may have more answers even if they're in poverty than the rest of us do. Because we often think that we have the right answers, and they've lived it. She said, when was the last time you didn't have a meal, and maybe a meal for a week? And you couldn't find the rent and all of that. And she said, and a lot of them are very resourceful and very resilient. And whether you want to consider that strengthening families, maybe it is. But get them involved, because they may have more answers than you think they do. And maybe it's pie in the sky. And we're not talking $300,000 jobs,
Yeah.
but what is possible. And working together was a part of this, and it's working together in regions, in multiple counties, to try to get some movement. So
I think your point is very well taken, and there is evidence-based practices and programs that would give to that to try to get healthy families. The Healthy Youth, Healthy Beginnings is a very research-based, evidence-based program that does just that in trying to get their families with young children on that right track, hitting them early, getting them early, because by the time they reach our office, often a lot of damage has been done by the time we are mandated to get involved. That's one of the things that we are pursuing. There's a meeting November 12th with Secretary Eloise, where we're going to be talking more about that and how can we get that in Wisconsin. Wapaka County, for example, has shown a very dramatic decrease in their child protection services referrals after getting that program up and running in Wapaka County. And then there's another, I know we've talked about the Nerf Health Partnerships.
there's several wraparound type
Yes.
programs where you start at birth, and you work in the first 5 years, and the years that you had mentioned about, daycare processes, it's those first early years. And I know it's being parents. It's sometimes being the parent along with, you work with them, in concert with them. You don't take over. You help out.
Try to hit both ends, hit at the same time, both the family and the prevention and trying to raise what we can.
It's a community raise, is a community raise.
Do you see anything as far as the culture of the country, as far as how, there's so many good programs out there, and so many that are being taken advantage of, and they're using so much of the resource, $1 at a time, when we're trying to squeeze our individuals for the dollar, and so much of the tax money on the state and federal level is being abused by individuals that shouldn't be receiving it. Who stands up and makes those people accountable, or who goes and reviews the programs and makes sure people that are taking these resources and these funds are actually the ones who should be receiving it and not just taking advantage of it. Because you see a ton of that, but nobody holds those people accountable.
That's good. We actually, to that end, we do economic support, of course, in Washera County. And the system has changed somewhat. I mean, there's not the old AWC program where you just get welfare. I mean, there is food share programs, there are badger care programs and medical assistance programs, those kind of things. And when we do get reports of someone maybe frauding those systems, we do have a system in place. Now, is it funded enough? No. You know, to handle all the referrals that come to the state? No. We do contract with a firm that helps do some initial investigating. And we also have that investigator in the district attorney's office who's starting to help us comb through, because to prove that can be very difficult. To prove that someone's frauding the system, it can be very time consuming. But I just met with Greg and Scott the other day, and he started taking on a couple of those cases right here that we think there might be some fraud going on to address that situation. And I think you probably saw in the paper, I think it was last summer, of the individual who did get convicted of frauding, it was their elderly grandmother or something. I can't remember what the relationship was. So proving those take a lot of time and a lot of efforts, but there are systems in place. They're not funded enough.
I just can't believe that in some cases, it's not my place to say because I don't run them sources, but how many resources are actually handed out in means which I don't know how these people would how would they be?
Eligible?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes it is knowing the whole story, but I agree. The system isn't perfect. We know that. I think
it's the culture of
it's a
this
good
country right
effort
now.
to try to make it more perfect. I think more people are trying to make the effort better. And just in other general programs that aren't necessarily the ones that you're talking about, there's more and more effort to evaluate everything that's done and make sure that it's evidence-based, as Dawn was talking about with some of the programs that we're doing, that everything isn't just feel good. It's something we've done before. This is the way we've always done it. This feels good. This looks good. But that it's something that has more research base to it that says this is something that is now working. And we're doing more and more of trying to do that in quality improvement in programming, so that many federal and other dollars aren't even just maybe when you're talking about food share, you know, all those types of things, that more dollars, period, are trying to go for efforts that you can actually see that it does something. Yes, things are baby steps. And yes, sometimes we feel like we're beating our head against a wall.
If you know
But
of any specific situation, please do call our department and let us know, because those will get looked into.
Okay, thank you.
hopefully in a smaller area like we are, things would be really stick out. I think a lot of times when you hear things, it may be statewide or somewhere else, and doesn't mean that we're not. Anything else?
We could keep you updated too, and if there's work groups that
Yeah.
you might be interested in, please let us know.
Because I know that many of you were interested in coming, and you'd perhaps like to jump on and join some of those things that are near and dear to you. Thank you very much for listening tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, we will have a consideration of possible action on the following resolutions and ordinances.
Resolution number 28-9-15, acknowledgement of Pam Kirschner's service to and retirement from Washera County.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resolution.
By Dennon, second by Bob Waddle. Does Mark have to abstain?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think there ought to be a little discussion about this. Because it's not working out real well at home, I'll tell you. And I would have thought her department head would have convinced her to stay.
I'll take her back. Her position isn't filled yet.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution number 29-9-15, acknowledgement of Gary Schultz's service to and retirement from Washera County.
Motion by Mark to approve.
Second.
Barry?
Yes.
Okay, second by Barry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance number 587, ordinance amending Washera County zoning maps pursuant to authority granted in Chapter 58 Washera County Code, zone change for Donald Wilson, Town of
move.
A motion
Second it.
and a second.
Rothermel and
Yeah.
Whale?
Yes. Any questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we have a proclamation, September 2015 as Juror Appreciation Month. Motion by Exton.
I'm jury duty this month.
We salute you.
We
I'll
salute
second.
you.
Second by Dennis. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we need, board suggestions for future agenda items, and next month will be next meeting will be our special budget meeting on September 29th at 7 p.m. Also, Red Granite has requested let's see, they want a representative for TIF District, Joint Review Board, and Pat King is going to do that. He represents the TIF District in Paloma as well. Deb, do you want to give a little information on the NACO cards, the prescription cards? That has, and these are available if you
Yeah,
want
they-
them for your constituents.
Sure, it's basically, I think we got into this program probably about 10 years ago. We belong to the National Association of Counties, and one of the benefits of being a member is you get discount cards. And you don't have to be affiliated with any insurance, or it's not any specific pharmacy, but the cards are available at different pharmacies. I've dropped them off at different pharmacies. I've given them to different townships. But if you need some, I certainly have them in English and in Spanish. So basically, it's just a discount on whatever your prescription is. So.
Thank
Yeah,
you
sure.
very much. I think, it was in, I'm sure Commission on Aging put it in their newspaper, but I think every once in a while it's good to remind people that we have those available. So, all right. Happy birthday, Everett.
Thank you.
Oh, happy birthday, Everett.
He's about 83 now.
Oh,
Big
just
cake
feels
ice
that way. Wasn't when the meeting started, but now.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay.
Yeah, cake and ice cream.
Aw.
Cake and ice cream at
We're
least.
going to motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Larry Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I won't be able to make
Thank you.
Will be there, Fred will be there.
Hopefully Fred's there.
That works pretty slick. That works really nice.
Huh?
Just
I
pulls
guess
out.
I have to.
Yes.
Barry and Mark,
This isn't working out.
Barry and Mark ain't gonna be there. I guess we gotta hold up the show. Hopefully Freddie boy